So what I want to make sure that you and I do is we set ourselves up to be able to win. So there's three things I'd like to walk you through. One, I'd like to walk you through how to the competitive edge that's going to get you both the performance you want at the highest level and also the fulfillment you want. Because if you want to know my view, I can tell you there's two master lessons in life. Lesson one is the science of achievement. If you want an extraordinary life, if you want a magnificent life, which by my definition has nothing to do with me, it's life on your terms. Some of you, what's an extraordinary life? It's having a cool little company. For some of you, it's having a big billion-dollar company. For some of you, it's not a company, it's three wonderful children that you totally love and adore and spend time with. For some of you, it's poetry. For some of you, it's making a difference in the environment. It's different for all of us. It's life on your terms. But if you're gonna have an extraordinary life, you need to master, number one, the science of achievement, which most of you are damn good at or you wouldn't be in this room, right? You know how to go from where you are, have a vision, make it real. Speeding that up, that's my business. When Mark talked about, he actually showed me the other day, we were together a couple days ago, and he showed me the very first day he did his V2 Mom, which is really a simple way of saying, what do you really want? What's your vision? And your values is, why do you want it? And walking through the obstacles and the solutions, strategies to get where you want to go. And he showed me on the back of an American Express bill where they designed on the very first day, Salesforce. And there you see that day where he engaged. He engaged in his vision instead of settling for a life that someone else had designed. He had a great life, extraordinary life. Top guy at Oracle, working for one of the most brilliant people on the face of the earth. Can you imagine how hard it would be to leave there and start something from scratch? But he had something larger that he wanted. So how do you do that? How do you get yourself there? You gotta understand the science of achievement. But I know so many people I get the call from, most successful in the world, business person, politician, leader of some sort, economic leader, financial trader, and they call me up and they want me to change something in their business, but I know what they really want. They really want to find fulfillment still. Because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Who's with me on this? Right? You make everybody else feel great. I mean, it's a horrible example. I hate it, but we all know an extraordinary spirit that took his own life just recently probably lit up more human beings than almost anybody alive when it comes to humor and joy. He made everybody else feel happy but himself. It's sad. You don't want that to be you. If there's any gift he can give besides his joy, is the evidence of what you want to move towards. Nobody in this room is going to move towards that, but we do it at a little level. We die a little bit along the way by giving up what we really desire and believe in. And my goal is to make sure to see if we can wake that up. So, and by the way, fulfillment is as unique as there are people. Achievement, there's laws, right? You do this. Money, there are laws. Your body, there's laws. We all have biochemical, special, unique identities, but there's certain fundamentals. If you do them in mass, you're going to be overweight. If you do them differently, you're going to be fit and strong. Same thing with money. But fulfillment is as unique as art. Art is what one person thinks is beautiful, somebody else can think is ugly, and that's perfectly fine. Have you ever gone to an art museum and you see this big red square and they go, $10 million, you go, you gotta be kidding me. $10 million for that freaking square? I'll draw you a square! But someone else, no, look at the texture, the taste, the flavor, I can taste the paint from here. They have a different way of being fulfilled, right? So those are the two kind of lessons of life. So this is what I'd like to do to help you with both those today, if you're willing to play with me. Number one, let's take a look at what will give you the edge. Who's up for having a competitive edge in anything you do? Say I. And it's not BS and it's not positive thinking, it's something you can test, because the edge is what's going to get more out of you. Second, I'd like to show you how to create a breakthrough. Who here has an area of your life where there's something you've struggled with for a while, and you're sick of struggling with it, and you're sick of making excuses, and you want to actually change it today? Who's got one of those in your life? Say I. If you want to play full out, I can show you that. And the third element really affects the other two, and it's really the one that affects business and life, and that's the power of engagement. All of these are tied to engagement. And I'll tell you what triggered me on this, is thinking about how could I add the most value here? And engagement is one of those, new flash words in the corporate culture we all hear about. Oh, full engagement, partial engagement. But it's really true. Engagement plays such a huge role, and some of the studies that are out right now are mind-boggling. Have you seen the recent studies they've done? 142 countries asking workers around the world, how would you describe yourself? Fully engaged, partially engaged, disengaged, aggressively disengaged. And guess what they found out? Throw it up there. Around the world, in 142 countries, they found out that 13% of employees worldwide said they were actually engaged in their work. Now for us in this room, you'd say that's absurd, there's something wrong with the survey. Well, you'd be right. In a room like this, it's full engagement, or at least a lot fuller engagement. America has the highest engagement of any country in the world, it's 29%. which sounds so much better when you're 13. Like, so which would you rather have, a punch in the face or a kick in the stomach? But let's flip that around and say, what does that really mean? It means 71% of people are disengaged at work in the richest, most powerful, most influential country in the world. It's mind-boggling. Now, if it was only one study, you'd say, oh, it was a partial, but you can see study after study coming up with similar numbers, slightly off, but pretty much the same ratios. Now, here's what's really interesting. Of those 71%, there's a group in there, about 24% of them, that are actively disengaged. You know what that means? That means they hate what they do and they hate you. Now, this is pretty important, isn't it? They hate what they do, they hate you, and they will actively work to disempower the organization. Who has ever bumped into one of these humans? Raise your hand, say I. Okay, so when you bump into these humans, it's not usually a pleasant experience, and we all know they're out there. And by the way, how much damage can they do in a world that has, social media everywhere, where good news travels fast and bad news travels faster, and people don't care what the truth is afterwards. It's a cool story, it makes it go. So this is an area that if you're going to change your business, you got to make a difference. So here's what I'm looking at. What makes the difference in people? What makes the difference in an organization? And I would submit to you that it isn't getting a head start. You can find individuals who you give everything to. You can love on them, give them a great education, they get a great economic background, and can spend the rest of their life going in and out of rehab. Who's seen this before, knows what I'm talking about? Say I. On the other hand, you see people that life's kicked in the face, somebody's been abused mentally, emotionally, physically, you name it, and they become the Oprahs of the world. So it's certainly not, advantage does not come because you were given something. And by the way, in business, advantage doesn't come because you have most resources. Companies with most resources don't win. The most resourceful companies win. The most resourceful companies are the ones where employees are the most engaged. And it's statistically proven. You look around and you say, who had the lead? Well, before YouTube, there was Vimeo. They had a year jump. Pretty much the same technology, just didn't engage as many people. Before Google, there was, what happened, Yahoo? If you're out there, what the hell happened to you people? Right? Before Facebook, there was, what happened to MySpace? Facebook was more engaging. Engagement is really the new factor. Being able to be fully engaged. And by the way, in your intimate relationship, how important is engagement? Some guys go, very important, I want to put it off as long as I can. No, I don't mean that. Full engagement in that area is going to determine the level of fulfillment you have or don't have in a relationship, right? The more engaged somebody feels that you are with them, the more energy you have, the more connection you have, the more aliveness you have. So part of what I like to experiment with here is kind of discover what creates engagement for real with you, what creates disengagement, because these are huge factors. Because if you understand what they are, your level of performance, your level of results, your level of leadership, your level of joy will change very, very radically. Who's with me that engagement is not just a term, but something that can make a difference in your body? Let me see a show of hands, say I. Now, I'm asking for your hand raised for some engagement. Because here's what research shows. If you listen to me passively as I'm talking here, guess what? Within a month, you just listen, sit passively. Most of you are doing it, there's nothing wrong with this, what you've been doing your whole life, what you've been taught to do. You'll remember about 10% of what I say 2 months from now, which basically means you wasted your time today and I wasted mine. 10%. How many came here because you want to learn something, do something, change something, make something stronger or better? Say I. If that's true, then if all you do is take notes, which I don't see anyone barely doing, oh, thank you very much, a few of you. I stand corrected. Then nudge the people on either side. What's wrong with you, bitch? Come on, where's the notes? Right? Because I don't know anybody who's got that great a memory. In my entire life, I've kept journals. Because here's what I learned early on. Writing it down, if I never look back and read it again, the physical act of writing it down drives the groove deeper. Repetition is the mother of skill. You look at anyone who's masterful, why are they masterful? Why can LeBron James do what he can do? Because he's done it a few million times, right? Kobe will go out and make 300 shots before he will leave that floor every day. 300 shots. The same freaking activity. Most people in tech world, oh, I heard that story, I know that thing, oh yeah. If you're not doing it, you don't know shit. You understand. And understanding in $3 will almost get you a Starbucks. If you're going to master something, you need to get the repetition where you get it in your body and you bring emotion to it, and enough motion, enough repetition, it gets in your body, and now it becomes physical mastery. You don't think about it and you just do it. Mastery is tying your shoes. Most of you can do this, chew on some gum, send a text simultaneously. Not some people leave their tongue out while they're doing it, but you get the idea. If you do something enough, and you're confident enough, you're certain enough it's in your body, that's mastery. So I'd like to see if we couldn't get to a different level of mastery in this. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, by the way, if you listen and take notes, just write those notes down or you type them in, whatever you do. Research shows you'll retain about 40 to 50% of what's been said. For the future, I'd highly engage or encourage you to do that. Now might be a good time. And then the third most powerful one is if you physically engage your body. If you ask you a question, yell back the answer. Or in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to actively engage in a different level. Engage with each other. Do some crazy things you wouldn't normally do. What that does, it brings up engagement, 80-90% retention, because now it's not just a thought or a right, it's a feeling in your body as well. And if you do that, you're going to retain it. Who's up for doing more and holding on to more? Say, I. Then to do that, I'm going to ask a couple of things. One is if I ask you a question, please yell out the answer. You're already doing that. You're being very kind, but don't be kind anymore. Do it with more passion and intensity. Because I'm not going to ask you questions you don't know the answer to, because I want you to feel good about yourself. But if you yell out the answer, you'll activate your body's nervous system. Make sense? And the more you activate, the more energy you'll have. We live in a passive society, and if we're going to engage, by the way, the companies that engage, the companies that have records of 24 to top 25% in the country, highest levels of engagement of employees, companies like Google, companies like Salesforce, companies like Apple, companies like Facebook. And by the way, guess what all the research shows? 22% more profitability, almost one for one. For every percentage of increased engagement, you almost get an increase in profitability. But I would argue you get that in your personal life as well. The more engaged you are, the more the other person will become engaged. You want to get somebody engaged? You get engaged. Think about it. Everyone in this room is a leader. What's our job to do as a leader? Our job is maximize resources, right? How do we take whatever resource and get more out of it? Ourselves, other people, our economics, our business, our technology. That's the job of a leader. But you can't maximize resources if you don't have full engagement. So I'd like to see if we could increase that. And so one simple way of doing that, increasing that engagement, is to start with us. Because by the way, are you going to engage other people if you're not engaged? Yes or no? Yes or no? Are you going to be able to touch other people if you're not touched? Are you going to move other people if you're not moved? And so by the way, here's the problem. How many of you wake up on? You have certain days you wake up and you think to yourself, today, I don't want to talk to any people. Who in this room has days like this? You don't want to talk to anybody here. Say I. Oh, come on, say it with some energy. I. But as a professional, you got to do that most times. And if you fake it, do people feel it? So I want to show you some ways to change it. But here's the reward of engagement. If you can become a person, engage others, you will now become an extraordinary leader, not a mediocre or good one. As far as I'm concerned, good is the enemy of great. As corny as it sounds. So think about it. I'll give you an example of this book that I did. I did this book because back in 2008, I felt like I was back in my childhood. Everybody around me was suffering. And I hate suffering. Most of the skills I develop is because I want to take somebody who's suffering and take them to a place where they have joy and aliveness and health and vitality and abundance or whatever I can do to help. And so I've got the guy that cuts my hair, my barber, is like, his kid can't go to college. He's lost half what he's got to do. A billionaire client of mine is no longer a billionaire. He's feeling equally bad, he thinks, but suffering is suffering in somebody's mind, right? And so I thought to myself, something's got to be done. And like most of us, someone's going to do something. In 2010, when things actually got worse and the system wasn't changed, I started reading everything I could read, started watching everything I could watch, and I watched a documentary called Inside Job. Anybody here see Inside Job? If you didn't see it, Matt Damon did the documentary on it, and it won the Academy Award. And it actually walked through systematically and showed how the entire world economic experience, our entire economy as a world, was almost destroyed by a few people, and they identified who they were, how they did it, they documented it all, and then they showed what happened to them. And what happened to them, does anybody know? No, not nothing. Nothing would have been a reward compared to what they should have got. They were actually put in charge of the turnaround. And they were given your money and mine. We were taxed so they could put their money back where it belonged. So at the end of this film, depending upon your personality, if you haven't seen it, I should warn you, you'll have one or two reactions. You'll either be very depressed or very pissed. I was on the piss side. I was so angry, and I thought to myself, nothing's been done. This is insane. And something's got to be done. I thought, everybody says something can be done, but what can I do? And I thought, you know what? I've got access. For 21 years, most people think I'm a happy, bouncing around, positive thinking, screening guy on an infomercial from 20 years ago. But I have continued to grow. not taller, hopefully. But in all that time, for 21 years, I've coached Paul Tudor Jones, who's one of the top 10 financial traders in the history of the world. He's a man who's made more money than almost anyone on earth, along with George Soros, a few of the names you may know. But Paul's really unique in that Paul found himself in a position that in 1987, when the stock market crashed, the largest percentage in a day still to this day, he made 20% when the whole world was losing everything. He made 200% that year for his clients. Just unbelievable. And then it was like the guy that walked on the moon. What do you do if you walk on the moon? You see that, you look at that incredible view of the earth. It's you seeing it, not a photograph. You come back to the earth, you shake the president's hand, you have a ticker tape parade. Now what do? And a lot of those astronauts, if you know the story, actually became depressed because they didn't have what I call a compelling future, something to look forward to. So Paul had a little fall back, and I was called in to turn him around. Came in and started studying everybody around him, figured out what it took to do it, and built a strategy to put him back in state. He's been successful and made money every year for 21 straight years. Every single year. There's no one in this class that's done that. No one. Pretty amazing. I was with him to give example. We were together back, if you remember, in the tech bubble of 2000. It blew up. Paul made money. Right by him, side by side, every single day. He's emailing me every single day. I'm talking in some ways, communicating, or I'm going to see him every 3 or 4 months to be there in person, make sure we keep tweaking the system. I'm not there to be a positive thinking coach. You didn't need that crap. I'm a prepare for anything coach. How do we figure out the strategy? I've always been a strategist. I've never believed in positive thinking. I never told people you should go to your gym or go to your garden, better yet, and chant, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. I'm like, here's the weed, let's pull it out. That's what I do with him. 21 years. 21 years includes 9/11, when the whole markets are blowing up, making money. 21 years includes everything we saw in the subprime crisis, making money. It includes when we all went through the drop in gold, those are associated to it not long ago. So I've been there with all those pieces, and I got a chance to learn from this guy side by side, and I've been able to contribute to him in a significant way. So I got access, so I decided I'm gonna go find a way to interview the 50 most influential, financial, brilliant minds on the face of the earth. Not people you read on the internet, not people on television screaming at you what to buy, and telling you to go to some mythical mutual fund that gives you 12% every year, and it doesn't exist. But the real guys and the real ladies that do it. But how are you going to do that? Oh, I'm going to call up to Tony Robbins. I'd kind of like to come interview you. You're worth $27 billion, and I'd like your time. You have to engage people. So I'm going to show you some ways to do that. I'm going to tell you, when you can engage people, there is no limit to the resources you can access. If you want real wealth, wealth is access to resources. It doesn't have to own them all, just access to them all. You can do whatever you want, go wherever you want to go. That's real wealth. And you can do it if you can engage people. And engaging people is finding a way to meet their needs, not yours. If you meet their needs, your needs can be met as well. And it can be done in a way that has integrity and love and vision and creativity, and it can truly be a synergy. Now I'll give you some examples of it just for 2 seconds, then we're going to do some things that engage this so you get the sense of its value. One of the first people I called on was Carl Icahn. Carl Icahn is a very gentle soul. He's a man who has a hard time expressing his true feelings about things. Who knows who Carl Icahn is? So you got to get a sense here. He's worth $27 billion. He has made more money. In fact, on the cover of Time magazine, they called him the master of the universe, because Kiplinger did a little study and found out Warren Buffett is not the most profitable person you could have invested with. Carl Icahn is. In the last 14 years, you would have made 1,600% with Carl Icahn. 75% overall in the S&P with the ups and downs, right? Net, I'm talking about after inflation. If you had invested with him in 1968 in his company, you'd have an average return of 31% for all these decades, doubling your money every 2.6 years. If you were with Warren Buffett, you get a mere 20%. This is an amazing guy. He agrees to the interview. I use every tool I got. I get there, and the first thing he does is he throws out my camera crew. No, I don't want this camera crew. I don't want this. I don't want the lights. I don't want this. Like, well, dude, you agree. I don't care. I changed my mind. Get him the hell out of here. I'm master of the frickin' universe. Don't you understand? Says, okay, no problem. Let's do the audio. My audio team goes, no audio. I said, what am I supposed to do? He goes, you got a pen? Come on, you got 10 minutes. 10 minutes? All my interviews are supposed to be 45 minutes. The average one went 3 hours. How? Engagement. I figured out how to engage these people, and I found something inside of them that really wanted to give. Not to me, they got what the mission was to other people. And I got them to tell me things nobody tells them. Jack Bogle, been in the business 63 years. Showed up for 45 minutes, 4 hours later left his office. And afterwards he wrote a quote for it, and he said it was the most probing, most intense interview you had in 63 years. Provocative and probing is what he said. Now that says to me a pretty cool thing. That means I engaged him better than anyone in 63 years and got those answers according to him, not according to me. Pretty cool. I went to a guy named Ray Dalio. How many of you know who Ray Dalio is in this room? Look how few people know Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio has been called the Da Vinci of investing. He's been called the Steve Jobs of investing. But most of you never hear of him because you couldn't access him in a million years. But if you're president of the United States, if you're head of the Fed, if you run China, you know who he is. And I'll tell you why. To work with Ray, first of all, for the last 23 years, he's made 21% per year compounded before fees. Through all those environments. Unbelievable. But here's all it takes to work with Ray. You need a $5 billion net worth, and $100 million is the initial investment, and that was 10 years ago. Now he won't take your money no matter how rich you are. You're talking to him, and he gets a phone call. It's the Prime Minister of China who wants some coaching. A large hedge fund might be $15 billion. Ray's $160 billion. I got hold of Ray. Part of what happened with Ray was he'd been a fan of mine, it turned out, for about 20 years. But what I did, I spent 15 hours to be ready to engage him. 15 hours of total immersion so I could pitch and catch with him. So I didn't just talk, I could do it back. He wouldn't just throw the ball, I could throw it back to him. And guess what? At the end, he has built something over the years called his all-weather fund, which is designed to make money no matter what market you're in. You don't have to know the markets. He said, what if I die? Someday I will. How will my kids have money? How will my philanthropic areas have money? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out why a balanced portfolio doesn't work in 2008 or 2000. And everything we've been taught about finance is wrong. And the Da Vinci of investing figured it out and has done it for himself for a decade and a half, and he tested it back to 1925, and it just makes money in any environment. So now his clients get to do it. Not the 1%, not the 0.0, the 0.001%. So I'm sitting down with Ray, and I get him to explain how it works, and at the end, we're engaged 3 hours into it, and he tells me how this works. And I said, this is beautiful, but I'm doing this, so I'm not doing this for money, I'm giving all the money away. I want people to have answers. And you just got done saying the average person going to the wealth manager will never work. They can't possibly do it. They might be sincere, they might even put their money in the same place that put you, but how many gold medals have they won, he said. Those are the only people that win. There's only a few. It's a giant poker game with a few winners. So you just said they're not going to win with anybody else. So I said, this is worthless without knowing the exact recipe. How much in this, how much in that, how much am I in this percentage, whether I got $1,000 or 20 million, 200 million. He goes, Tony, that's my secret sauce. That's what $5 billion and 100 million used to get you. I said, yeah, but you won't take anybody's money now. He said, yeah. And I said, you're giving away half your fortune with 14 billion. You're a giver. Help a guy out, give me the secret sauce. And he goes, it's really complex. I can't really just share it that way. I said, I know it's complex, but I'm a pretty smart guy and I'm good at simplifying. I believe complexity is the enemy of execution. That's what it is. You got to make it so simple, people do it. Complexity is the enemy of execution. So I'll get it simple, you get it to me, I'll make it simple. He goes, well, it uses leverage. I said, give me one that doesn't leverage, that anybody could do. They could do with ETFs. He goes, well, I don't know what that's gonna look like. It won't be perfect. I said, your worst plan is gonna be better than anybody else's best plan. And then he this moment of engagement, this magic moment, he opens up and he goes, okay. And I'm writing like crazy. I got the video camera going. I'm feeling this vibration in my body. I left so excited, knowing it was something special, but not knowing what it was. But that formula, I took it to Hightower, $30 billion asset company, and said, test this, 30 years, 40 years, 75 years, how's this done? Over all that time period, in the last 30 years, it lost money 4 times. Made money every other time, and the 4 times, one of the losses was 0.003. So it really practically lost money 3 times. You know what the average loss was? 1.9%. But the average gain, just under 10, all in. The largest loss in 75 years, it's been right 85% of the time, the largest loss was 3.95, as that was 2008. Less than 4% when the rest of the world, from top to bottom, lost 51%. It's in my book, by the way. And a bunch of my partners are like, hey, this is a business. Don't put that shit in the book. And I said, you know what, it is a great business. We can help people do it if they want to do it, but it wasn't offered in that spirit, so it's there. I tell you this because I want you to understand, with engagement, you can get anything. But engagement, I want you to define it, I want you to experience it.